Welcome back to the Vanflip podcast. This is our second quarantine live stream podcast situation that we've done. We would like to welcome Frankie from Emmure, on the podcast today, and I am luckily joined by Alex, who is also part of Lambgoat. So welcome both of you. How are you all today?
I'm alive. I think I have my health, and so it's pretty much as good as it gets for me, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Doing fine.
Well, that's good.
Locked at home.
Excited Alex, as we have. Yeah, vote for the Trap Man. Did you happen to watch our last podcast with Chris?
I watched a little bit of it and I got kind of bored, but not because of you guys. You guys are great, but I just stopped caring about what he was saying, you know. But yeah, I checked it out.
Well, that's interesting. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, don't disrespect him. He wrote that one song.
Dude, when I was in middle school, I think I was in middle school. That song was a bop, bro. I don't care what anyone says. That song is sick.
Hey, I won't disrespect what he accomplished with the song. Hey,
Absolutely.
Having a top 20, I think it was a top 20 hit.
Yeah,
that's something.
And definitely for that.
So even if he's living on that legacy, I guess more power to him. That's how I feel. Now, I don't agree with him politically, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the good point is he's super relevant now, 20 years later. So
that's working for him.
That is. So, Frankie, how are you dealing with the coronavirus and the quarantining altogether?
I'm adapting pretty well. My life isn't too different, except for the fact that I just can't do any live performances. Like I am a homebody and a hermit. So it's not like that much has changed for me, but it sucks that like I live in this cool ass city and it's pretty much it's a dead zone. There's no, like, you know, everything's closed. No one's outside. There's nowhere to go except for the grocery store and the 7-Eleven pretty much. So that kind of bums me out, but, I mean, whatever, you adapt, you know what I'm saying? Like you roll the punches. That's really all I'm doing, honestly.
Yeah.
What city are you in right now?
Portland.
Portland, Oregon.
West Coast.
Yeah.
Portland, Maine, I assume.
What's that?
Nobody lives in I just said Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine. I don't know if anybody lives in Portland.
I kept fantasizing about living in the Pacific Northwest, like with the trees and the lakes and stuff like that. So here I am, planting myself here.
Yeah, you went from the East Coast to the West Coast, huh?
Well, I went from New York to LA, and I was living in downtown LA in like a really decrepit like spot, and I just kind of stopped wanting to like live amongst like all like these like completely insane homeless people and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I want to go where I can like breathe a little better and like see the trees and shit like that. So if I didn't end up in Portland, I would have been like in Seattle or, you know, someplace like that. So here I am.
Well, that's cool. I have actually family in that area as well, so I'm vaguely familiar with that area.
Tight.
When did you, how long have you been up there? Is that something recent, or have you been up there for a couple of years?
I made the move in like August of 2019.
Okay, so relatively recent, huh?
Yeah.
Is that part of the, because you've been trying to, I guess, coin the phrase like be a better person or just be more mindful in general. Is that part of the whole situation there, or was that something that you, like you said, you wanted to do, but what made you actually pull the trigger on it?
No, I mean, I think everyone's evolving at their own pace. That's really all it is. Just sometimes I put my thoughts on the internet. What people decide to do with them is up to them, but that's really all it is, you know. I'm not a perfect person by any stretch, but you know, I'm always trying to like figure out things about myself that I can fix. You know, I think everyone's doing that in some way, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely very commendable. So you know, I want you to know that going forward. But
oh well, thanks. That's very nice of you.
Are you drawing over there today? Is that what you're doing in the room today?
I don't know. Now that I know you guys can read my signs, I'm trying to think of funny stuff I can put on screen.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Do you draw at all? I see a bunch of like anime artwork in the background. I don't know. If
I'm not that talented, but I do have some posters I've collected over the years that I like. I've always been more of a graffiti artist than like a contemporary artist.
Interesting. Yeah, cool.
But my style of graffiti is like not even. It's like, I don't know if you guys care about that art form at all, but for me, like tagging and like throws and like that to me is like what graffiti is. That's like the buttery essence of graffiti is what I'd like to call it. So that's something I've been doing since I was in high school, since I was like 14. So it's been a long journey with that whole thing. But you know, I'm not out vandalizing stuff anymore. I just, you know, it's kind of just like a growing like hobby or something like that. It's always been with me.
Right.
I don't know squat about that world, honestly. I'm not disrespecting.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I generally think that it's still very niche, even though people know what it is. You know, people don't really understand it in full or have like that deep of interest normally. You know.
Yeah, definitely. The vandalizing part, I agree to that because I kind of am up to date on the art into the graffiti scene.
I listened to Downset when I was a teenager. That's all I know about. They were like taggers or something. That's the extent of my knowledge. But Zach De La Rocha was a fake.
Interesting.
That's what I learned from Downset.
It definitely is a bummer that you couldn't make it to our recording spot, Frankie. It is in a big warehouse where we do graffiti all inside on the walls and stuff like that. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I would have wrecked your shit.
Oh,
you would have had to kick me out.
No, you're all good. You're more than welcome to crash it next time you come through town for sure. We have 3 warehouses full of space, and Hate Read Forever is the sign he's holding up. We all can kind of
nothing bad to say about them.
What's up?
I said we have nothing really bad to say about that.
Oh no, I just like giving shout outs, man.
Yeah, for sure. That Perseverance album is a life changer.
Oh, dude, of course, man. I mean, I'm old school. I mean, I love Under the Knife and Satisfaction, and I'm one of those kids who like listened to those 2 first records for so long that I didn't think Perseverance would ever come out. It was like, you know what I mean? I would talk about it with people like, I think Haver's making a new album. They'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like then it finally, what was it, like 6 years later or something like that until it finally came out? It was a long time. Yeah.
It was 95 to 2000.
Yeah.
From them. But those Satisfaction and Perseverance for me are crucial records.
Absolutely.
Under the Knife was cool. It's just the production on Satisfaction was a step up, and I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it carried them for that amount of time. You know what I mean? So it says a lot about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's why I was drawn to Perseverance more so than the earlier ones, because the production and the sound of it was just more like completely full, and it just sounded so much bigger than it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree.
Well, I'm glad that I could finally talk I mean, I would say nu metal, but I've talked nu metal on this podcast a bunch. But, you know, you kind of pioneered a wave of nu metal deathcore, nu metal metalcore, and now it seems to be all the rage. Did you ever see that come in, or what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's cool that music is very cyclical like that. That kind of trends or sounds always kind of reemerge in some way. So it's not really I'm surprised or anything like that, nor do I consider myself a pioneer or anything, even though I can appreciate the formality of it all. I just have always liked what I liked, and so I never was ashamed to incorporate that into whatever I'm doing creatively, you know? I think it's awesome that maybe Emmure has been a gateway for some bands or some younger people who've like missed out on Korn and Biscuit and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't know. I'm not like, again, I'm not really surprised or anything that people are checking those bands out. Cause I mean, there's a reason why at one point Korn and Biscuit were the biggest bands on the planet, you know, it's not cause they're shit, it's because they did something right, you know?
I agree. I'm a big Limp Bizkit fan of myself, so.
Yeah, don't get him started on Limp Bizkit.
Oh, we could talk about Biscuit all day.
I definitely I want the Emmure Limp Bizkit tour to hit. I've been wanting that for a couple of years.
I know.
I think that would fit.
I know, that'd be really cool. The closest relationship I have to that band is I'm kind of like familiar with their tour manager and the drum tech. I've known those guys for a while, but I don't know. I'm not like, I don't put my eggs in that basket anymore. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it would be cool.
It definitely would be cool.
Yeah.
Especially because it would give, I guess, I would assume Biscuit a reason to tour America, and that would be cool for you to do that with them. But obviously, they play around the world.
I've seen them do an America tour with Machine Gun Kelly, and it was a big success. I mean, a lot of people were there. The energy was great. Machine Gun Kelly was a great opener. So, I mean, I know that they have, like, the capacity to go and fill out rooms and stuff like that. I guess they just don't. I don't know. Maybe they have not. Maybe our name just isn't in that pool or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think about it or like harp on it or think it's the end all be all or anything, but it would be really cool. You know what I mean? I honestly think the coolest thing that could happen, this is just me spitballing here, was if Family Values as a trademark came back,
Yes.
and we were on that kind of like the legacy of that, I think that'd be really sick, you know, because obviously for me, Family Values is like what encapsulates that whole era, you know.
I agree.
I saw that tour when I was a teenager.
I'm jealous of you
wild.
now, and I'm jealous of you then, bro. I was like super sheltered as a kid. I wasn't allowed to do shit.
Well, I mean, I'm a little older, so yes, he does have Twitter. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was like
what year did you go?
It was what's that?
What year did you attend which year of the tour?
Damn, I don't even know. I just remember that it was a rotating stage, and I think Primus was there, Rammstein, which was, I wasn't even a Rammstein fan, but their live show was wild. Like the pyrotechnics.
Yeah, no. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Bad news, bros.
Oh no.
I restarted my computer.
It'll have sometimes that's the key, you know. Sometimes that is the key.
Sorry, I feel really bad. I wish I could have predicted that.
Oh, you're more than good.
Where did we leave off? I thought you guys were talking. I couldn't hear you.
We were talking about Family Values.
Oh yeah. So I was saying how I saw Family Values once, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember Rammstein, and I remember Korn and Limp Bizkit doing the All in the Family song. I don't know the title of the song.
That's awesome. That's so sick. Yeah.
So it was cool, but yeah.
I was gonna say, like, when Frankie mentioned bringing back the Family Values tour, I was like, well, Rammstein was supposed to do their big U.S. tour that got canceled, so maybe they can, slide that in instead, because they were a big part of the Family Values tour.
Absolutely, and in my opinion, if Rammstein is a part of it again, they most likely will have to headline, which is rightfully so.
Rammstein's too big for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they just booked a stadium tour,
Exactly.
Yeah,
they got a shitload of fans. I don't know.
That was actually quite impressive for me. I wasn't very aware that they were that huge, to be honest with you. I mean,
they're like one of the biggest for sure.
Yeah, I just haven't paid that much attention since back in the early nu metal days for myself. So
I can't name a single song other than the Du Hast thing.
The other song I can name, because I think I'm in the same boat as you, is the song called Sane. It's an amazing song by Rammstein. But yeah, the same thing too. Like after '98, I think Rammstein's presence, like in the Western markets, just kind of dissipated, and so they just kind of continued to be huge, like in Europe and other markets. But now I'm sure it's obviously folded over here to where people are like, "Please come back!" Like you're one of the best. So
have you caught?
Yeah, they've done something right.
Have you caught any of the singer's solo stuff or his other band?
No. There's only so much I have like the brain power to pay attention to. So no, I'm not sure missed it.
Well, the videos on YouTube are not safe for work.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, Rammstein's never been safe for work. They've always been like super dark and like overly sexual and stuff like that. So it makes sense.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, in fact, during that concert, the keyboard player
had a dildo, right?
Well, no, the part I don't want to say he didn't. I just don't recall that part. I do recall him being like having a collar, like a dog leash on, and then maybe the singer walking him around the stage. It was a whole S&M theme thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was it was, I guess, edgy at the time. I don't know how edgy it would be now, but
yeah.
Definitely
it was time frame. Entertaining, I'll say that.
Yeah, they're sick.
But yeah, they're I don't think. Yeah, that would be like an ego problem, Limp Bizkit and Rammstein at this point. In any case, so Frankie, you, I guess, I don't know what your facility is there, i.e. your home, but you can't really accomplish much musically, I take it, from that location.
Well, I certainly can't scream into a microphone without causing some kind of like erratic feelings with everyone else in the house. It would not be appropriate. I've done like some Instagram live streams and people are like, scream. And I'm like, if you give me $10,000 right now, I'll scream, because that's the only way I can afford to get kicked out of here, is to make everyone upset with my noise. But nah, I can write music and stuff. Like I have like I have a full studio. I have like ways to be creative in that sense. But anything that involves me using a microphone, like how people are generally familiar, is kind of like not exactly the best situation for that. So
now your bandmates, they're not in Portland, right?
No. Joshua Travis lives in St. Louis, and yeah, everyone's just like spread out. So,
and I apologize, I don't know a whole lot about the Emmure songwriting process over the years. Is that, have you been, involved in the songwriting? Is that something? I mean, obviously, I know you do the lyrics and whatnot.
Yeah,
it's the artistic direction. But I mean, are you sitting there coming up with riffs on a guitar?
So, I mean, I don't have the chops to pick up a guitar and play anything fluidly. That's why I have people like Josh in the band who, even if I have an idea, he can literally recreate it on the spot with me being like, this is what it should sound like. And there are moments like that where I have that kind of heavy hand in the writing. And then there's a lot of times where I'm just so curious to see what Josh will come up with and see how I can attach myself to it. And sometimes that's the strongest stuff too, but it comes in different waves. Like, there's sometimes, again, I have a lyric in my head, a song built around the lyrics in my head, try to put that out, or I hear something that happens and I go, oh, that's great. Let me try and, drive that vehicle in this direction and make the song to that. But that's evolved over time. I mean, there's been so many people in the band over the past 17 years now. So sure. My input has only become more apparent as the albums have been created over time. But now, again, like having someone like Josh in the band, I'm just so curious to see what he's gonna do first. And then if I feel like there's something that the album's missing or an idea I feel really strong about, then we'll sit down and recreate it. But I don't give full credit to myself for anything that happens. It's teamwork makes the dream work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Sure. It's interesting. When I read, obviously you guys have a ton of fans, but you're one of those bands that elicits strong reactions, I suppose, either way. The
polarizing.
Detractors. Sure. Yeah. A better word than mine. When you got Josh in the band, one of the frequent things you'll read out there, and you've probably seen it, is Josh is too good for this band. Josh is too technical. Frankie has this weapon that he can't really utilize to his fullest ability because Emmure's song structures are too simplistic, and he belongs in a more technical band where he can spread his wings and fly. Putting it as poetically as I possibly can. Is that something, though, that you struggle with? You have a core sound that Emmure's been known for over the years, and to utilize, I guess, the strengths Josh has, you'd have to deviate, I suppose, significantly from that core sound. Is that something you've wrestled with since having him in the band, or just something you don't give a shit about?
I mean, there is that kind of like issue where Josh is capable of so much, and there's been times where he'll send me like literally 100 things, and I'm like, dude, this is really good. Like, this is really cool, but what am I going to do with this? This is not going to fit the mold or what people expect, but it's so out of frame of what we are at the core of this that it doesn't make sense. So it's a lot of me like hearing that stuff. And then, like I said before, like trying to drive that car in the right direction. Like, all right, let's scale it back this way. That riff, like this part of that riff is cool. Let's take that part, focus on that. Like having someone who's so capable and talented and everything that Josh is not a hindrance at all. I don't want it to sound like that, but there has definitely been like this kind of like trying to like retrain his brain. Like, look, I know what you can do. Let's pop it off in this world, in this box that I've created that we've been, I use quotations, been succeeding in, you know what I'm saying? So I think that there's definitely like only now pretty much an evolved version of the sound that's already there. I don't think Emmure, even though Josh has joined the band, we've deviated too far from what the sound is. And even though people can say whatever the fuck they want about, oh, you should be doing this and that, it's like, okay, then how about this? How about you guys, how about anyone out there play every Emmure record front to back, and I'll put you in the band, because that's not going to fucking happen. No one can do it. So it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks or says about the shit, because no one's been able to replicate the shit perfectly, and they won't. So I mean, I don't know. It's great that people think that way, I guess, because it means that Josh is that good, and whatever, but it doesn't mean that, I don't know, this essentially what they're saying is true or anything like that. I don't think of it like that. You know what I'm saying?
It's probably all those Tony Danza fans that.
I mean, Tony Danza's. I'm a fan of Tony Danza, and I was actually a fan of Tony Danza before Josh was ever in that band. I love that band. So, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I've just known Josh for a long time because of like some old MySpace messages we sent to each other like back in the day before anyone even knew who he was. Really.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I have so much love for the guy, and I'm so glad he stepped up to plate, because without him, a lot of what we're doing would not be possible at all. But what people say about it is completely worthless to me.
I assume you heard his new solo-ish track with Andy from
Andy? Yeah, the Andy kid's super talented. He actually did an amazing Emmure cover like a couple of years ago that's like super good. And yeah, it makes sense that they would team up and do something together.
And now you got the other Josh who, I guess pretty much Darko.
Yeah.
Pretty much put, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did like all the instrumentation and everything.
Yeah.
So you've got a bunch of dudes in the band who are sort of self-sufficient, if you will.
Yeah, that's great. They should go on tour together.
No, I'm not suggesting that. You've got an ample supply of ideas, I suppose.
No, yeah, both Josh Miller and Jethro Travis are super talented, and yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Obviously, what they're putting out is really good, so no surprise there.
Have you guys been?
Now, you guys had. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Have you guys been trading back ideas during this time, since you guys are just like stuck and bored? Even though you guys already are scheduled for a release this year, have you guys been like doing any writing and everything?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, again, Josh has been kind of working on his own time, doing his own projects, spreading his wings, I guess you want to call it. But no, there hasn't been anything on the Emmure front, really. Unfortunately, with the whole COVID-19, I was supposed to be on the road this month in Europe promoting this upcoming album, which is supposed to be the main focus for everybody. But that obviously is tanked for obvious reasons. And I mean, I don't know. Things are kind of up in the air. I mean, the album is still going to come out. There's still content being made. And all that's very real, but I just don't know. I don't have any hard street date for anybody, or like when that's gonna happen, or really have any kind of news to say about new stuff. Because even though we talk about it, we haven't implemented anything yet. We have done zero kind of writing or anything, but we do chat about it. It's in the air for sure. We're considering having a new release ready to go for next year, but we'll see what comes.
The album. The album was done, right?
Yeah, I finished it in August.
Okay, but I don't think there was ever a release date that was, dropped. Obviously, with this whole COVID thing, there was a release date, it would have been bumped anyway. But as far as the new release date, I know you don't know it, but are you guys going to wait till the world is quote back to normal, or
no?
You're not.
The album's going to come out this year. It's just that we've been strategically trying to just make dope shit. Because the people, and I don't mean to say this to demean anyone, but I mean, like, generally people's attention spans are about, 0.3 seconds? So it's like, what's the point of just, here's a single, here's the album date, here's the album. Like, why don't we just keep putting out as much content as we can, like a single every couple months or whatever we can possibly do that actually is good and worth checking out. And then when all it's said is done, we've kind of laid out the groundwork of what the content, the visual content and everything is. Then it's like, boom, record's out. So people are like, oh, cool, I've been checking out this and little. Now I get the whole fucking spiel. The old format of single, tour date, tour announced, album release date, that's dead. Like, now you need to pretty much be shelling out as much as you can constantly to keep people's attentions on what you're doing. And the fact that people are still asking now, when's the album, means that it's working. People are still interested. They still want to see what's coming next. So that's kind of the whole point. Just keep milking it for all it's worth,
Do you like that model better than the old traditional model?
I wouldn't say better. It's just that I understand that that's kind of the world we're living in now. The fact that media is so easy, everything's so easily accessible. It's like once an album's in the air, people are done with it a week later. Not that they're over it, like, and since they don't like it anymore, but it's like, okay, what's next? What's the newest thing? Like, that's all they're worried about, which is fine. That's just kind of the age we're living in. So you kind of have to adapt to that. I mean, this is all stuff that I didn't even really have the foresight on. I mean, really, it's people like the people on my label who are like, look, this is the game plan. This is what makes sense. And honestly, I believe it. It does make sense. So,
yeah, I was
who has
talking
the
to
final
Alex.
call? Out of curiosity. Sorry, Dave.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, who has the final call? Is that you or the label as far as a release date goes? I'm just curious.
I mean, like, not to be like too redundant, but like teamwork makes the dream work. Like, I trust these people. Like, they're the ones who are going to be a little more aware of that thing. Like, I'm old school. Like, to me, it's like put an album out, and if the album is amazing, you tour on it for 3 years, and then you put a new album out. And the fact that Look at Yourself, our last album before the one that's about to come out, the fact that we were able to tour on it for that long is practically a miracle, because it was such a standout record for us. It did carry for that long, but for other people, like, and I wasn't even really, I guess, attuned to this. Other people were like, new shit. It's like, really? Like, I just put this record out that's fucking banging. Like, this is what we're touring on. People are like, whatever. There's other bands put out records that are sick. So where the fuck's your record at? And I get that. As a consumer, you just want something to take its place, to compete, to fill up the zeitgeist of your musical world or whatever. So we're just trying to play the game in in lieu of what the fucking, I guess, the, I don't know what you call it, the ecosystem is of this whole thing now, because it's changed so much.
Well,
don't be so lazy, man. The Beatles put out an album every year.
Dude, Emmure was putting out an album every year up until
I was just going to say that. Yeah, your first 5 records were basically every year, other than 2010. You had a record every year from 2007 to 2012. And a lot of those records are like, there's some classic singles on there for sure, on Felony, Speaker of the Dead, and Slave of the Game, and everything. But as a consumer, I do enjoy the model of a band maybe writing 10 songs and releasing them throughout the year. I know Alex and I had this conversation earlier last year about how record labels would combat with the attention spans and all that stuff, because artists and other artists that are people that paint, people that make content, people that are just putting stuff on the internet, that you're competing with that now as a whole. So it's everything, like Netflix and YouTube and everything. You got to compete with all that. So to stay relevant, like Trapped has for this long, you have to continue to put out content like that.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
No, no, for sure. I mean, it's true though. Like, you just even if let's say you're putting out something that might not have been your what's it called, your swan song or whatever, like, you still put it out. You still got to have something out there for people to chewing on, because like you're saying, you're competing not only with other bands and musicians now, you're competing with fucking like YouTube, you're competing with fucking podcasts, like all this shit, what I'm saying? So
TikTok's a big one, and now that the attention span on TikTok could be very minimal because videos are quick. It's like the new Vine,
Yeah, bro, the hive mind is really poisoned, in my opinion. I think that we've really fucked ourselves. Now, I'm not on TikTok. I don't know anything about it enough, just other than say I've seen like people make funny face filter videos or something like that. But yeah, I think just the whole information age, if you want to call it the information age, is more of just like the pollution age, like how much fucking nonsense can be funneled to people's brains. You know what I'm saying? That's all I really see.
Yeah, I mean, you got people like spending 20 minutes, 2 days, whatever, setting up some TikTok video. It's gone too far. I guess everybody's looking for their viral 15 minutes of fame, and at some point, I think we've done more harm than good.
Yeah, fame is cheap. Fame is really cheap too. Like, I remember at one point in time, you were famous for like being good at something. Now you can just be like famous for licking a toilet. Like, fame is the cheapest thing ever.
Yeah, that's for sure. I guess to bring it back to the band, you guys, I was just looking at the very first Lambgoat Emmure news item, which I apparently typed up in 2006.
Okay.
When you guys got signed
to
Victory. No, It was Victory Records signs Emmure.
Wow.
Victory owner Tony Brummel. How do you pronounce that?
Brummel.
This is aggressive music for what many feel are frustrating times. There are many negative ways to deal with frustration in one's life. Emmure provides a positive alternative. Sonically and emotionally, they reflect the power that music can have. Straight from the horse's mouth, but I was looking through the comments and, like, of course, like, comment number, I don't know, whatever, halfway down was halfway down was where the hell did it go? Tony Brummel will steal your cash. Signed, Hawthorne Heights. You guys re-upped with Victory, right?
Yeah, twice.
So clearly you didn't have the same concerns, or you didn't have the same issues with Tony and company that, you know, some of these other bands have had and had quite visibly, like A Day to Remember and Hawthorne, and even going back to Hatebreed. You had a different experience?
I'll say this, all right? Hawthorne Heights is they are like the exception to the rule. You know what I'm saying? They're the Midas touch. It's like, it's such a rare thing that a band in that genre, in that seat, in that label, becomes like MTV mainstream fucking huge success. Now, if you know anything about Victory Records deals, they are not in the artist's favor, in the sense that you could sell 1 million copies, you're not going to get $1 million. That's not how it's set up, all right? Now, so I understand Hawthorne Heights probably were like, fuck, like, we're worth so much more now, we should be getting X, A, Y, Z out of our contract, but you're not owed it. Now, with Emmure, we knew what we were signing. We understood that we were going to get this money up front. They're going to pay for this much of the record. And there's a lot of positives I can say about Victory. The fact that they never stifled us creatively. They paid for the albums to get done. The art team was always behind us. Like, everything fell together right in our relationship with Victory Records. But there's also things that, you know, could never be fixed, like the fact that they own like 100% of the publishing, or the fact that like the royalty rate is like literally almost non-existent. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of like nature of the beast, I guess, especially when you're dealing with an independent like that, who's just like pretty much like, hey, look, we're going to spend a bunch of money on your band and make you guys like known and shit. But, you know, when the cash comes flowing back in, like, don't expect to like get fucking ducats you think you're owed. It's just not what it is. But the reason we read up twice, like I said, is because they did come through on the albums. They were behind us in everything we did. And then when it came to giving us like the sign-on bonuses, they were pretty fat. Like, we got paid from Victory Records for sure in those early days. Like, you know, with Eternal Enemies Late to the Game, like, they wrote some pretty fat checks to keep us on board. And I think that has to do with the fact that maybe we were one of the only last bands on the roster that kind of had momentum and people were really paying attention to. And that's not to bash anyone that got signed prior or before or anything like that. I'm just saying that it seems like they had a major incentive to keep us around. It wasn't like we were just we weren't totally fading accurate. Out.
By the time you guys signed, no, I just wanted to reinforce that, because by the time you guys, I guess, signed your second contract, it was kind of I don't want to say a dead scene at Victory, but you guys were one of the, you know, big stables in the horse at that point, which wasn't the case earlier. So, yeah, I could see how that would work out for you. But then you went to SharpTone. So was there an offer? I mean, was there an offer or consideration to signing with Victory a third time, or was that just the relationship was dead at that point? You were resigned to go somewhere else?
Before there was a mass exodus in 2015, me and that current lineup, we all decided that we were going to take a deal from Nuclear Blast. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, but Nuclear Blast is pretty much the European leg of the SharpTone label, or SharpTone is really the American leg of the Nuclear Blast label, I should say. So Nuclear Blast had wanted to sign us for like years, but we never jumped ship because Tony Brummel kept writing us fat sign-on bonuses, like, come back, I'll give you fucking cash, let's make it work again. And we're like, all right, you know, money talks, bullshit walks. But then we kind of felt like our best bet was to go with a label that had better work ethic in other territories. Now, the thing about Victory Records people don't know is that, in America, they're like a staple, but outside of America, no one pays attention to them at all. Like, and in Europe, they have no, like, stake there. In Australia, Japan, you name it. There's not, like, a Victory Records stranglehold there. But Nuclear Blast, on the other hand, on all these other markets, Australia, Europe, yada, yada, they crush it. They know exactly how to get your band popping off. And now if you are familiar with, like, how bands survive, like, the trends, Like, you do your thing in America, hopefully it goes well, and if you're very lucky, your European career takes off, and that's where you continue to go and bang out records and still like sell places out. Like, that's the longevity market for metal bands. So Nuclear Blast was our best bet to continue that, you know, I don't know what you call this, that part of our career, or the strength of our touring cycles and stuff like that, whatever, you know. So there was a lot of reasons to jump ship.
Portion of the career.
Yeah.
Did you experience any animosity from Tony when you left? Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, Tony has like talked shit about me and stuff like that, and we've had our little tiffs and stuff. But I mean, really in general, I can't say anything bad about the guy. Like, I really can't. Like, he didn't burn us really by any measure. Like I said, like, he was really behind everything we ever wanted to do. Like, everyone at the label was, and it wasn't a bad time to be on Future Records. But you know, that's really it. I mean, I don't know how his feelings are now. The last message I got from Tony was someone secondhand was like, Tony wanted me to tell you he thinks you're really smart and talented, which I don't know if that was like, one of the backhanded comments, but
whatever.
Either way, you know.
Take it as a compliment. But I guess he's doing all right with his you know.
Well, he sold
Victory's acquisition.
He sold everything to Sony, the entire Victory library. So.
Right. Well, I thought it was to Concord. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I might have my information wrong. I thought it was Sony.
Oh, I guess because I just posted something because he launched his new label, Mission 2 Entertainment, with because I guess when he sold Victory and another Victory, the publishing house, he kept some of the staff and was just biding his time to launch something else, and now has Mission 2 with, I guess, Cro-Mags is their whatever
flagship band.
Their first sign, flagship band for the moment. So whatever, he's gonna, I guess, start a new empire, or so he'd like to.
Mm-hmm.
So everything with SharpTone's cool then.
Yeah, no, it's you know, I've been very blessed that everyone that kind of comes into my circle has full faith in whatever my ideas are and like tries to make them come to life. And it's no different now with SharpTone. I mean, I've been working with some of the people in the label for like over a decade already, so it just became like it was an easy shift, you know. And obviously, like I said, Nuclear Blast is so great because they were able to like take the next step of Emmure and completely blow it the fuck up in all these places Tony could never touch, like Japan, Australia, Europe, you know, all those other markets that exist. So
are you the Emmure trademark owner, I assume?
Yeah,
you have full ownership of the band legally.
Yeah,
that's a good place to be,
for sure.
Speaking of SharpTone, they've kind of been killing it the last couple of years as far as like you know, metalcore has been concerned. They've been really putting out some quality releases, and I guess you would consider them a label mate. Loathe actually dropped a really good nu metal inspired nu metal metalcore record this year. I didn't know if you kind of planned on touring with them once this all kind of blows over. I know they're from.
I would love to.
They're from Europe as well.
I heard some of the new stuff. It's cool. It's different than the previous releases. It's got kind of more of like a. I hate saying everyone compares every fucking band to Deftones. It doesn't sound like Deftones. It just sounds. It's got more of that kind of songwriting going on where like he's singing more, the guitars are more droning, it's not like mosh riffs and stuff like that. I think it's good. I say it all the time, Loathe is like one of the best live bands I've seen that have come out in a while. Like they really throw it the fuck down, so I'm a fan for sure. They're sick.
Who else are you listening to these days?
Dude, nothing. I have a record collection, so I have like my vinyls I spin like all the time, and then like every once in a while I like jump on my YouTube Premium and like play something that I don't own on vinyl, like I don't know, like Blood Has Been Shed or something like that. And no, that's really it. I don't know. I can shout out bands that are worth listening to if that's what you want me to do. I think Loser is one of the dopest bands out right now that no one's paying attention to. They have an amazing record out called Never Young, and everyone should check that out immediately. But the list goes on. There's all kinds of bands that are sick that I might not be shouting out doesn't mean they're not dope, you know?
Right. What
I
are some
assume
of your...
you're not.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I assume you're not sitting around listening to hardcore and metal.
Yeah, I was gonna see what other genres were you listening to. I'm sure you're not
Smooth
just listening to it
jazz,
all the time.
big band from the 30s.
A lot of my intake for music is Aphex Twin. He's like my musical idol pretty much. I listen to him like all the time. But I also have like classics. Like I spin like Mudvayne and Korn, and today I was actually listening to this fucking jam. If anyone's familiar with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
RTL baby. But yeah, I don't know. My tastes are varied. I like everything. I'm not one of those people that only listens to one genre or feels attracted to like one particular style of music. Whatever I'm in the mood for, I listen to, you know?
Yeah. What are some of your top choices on the vinyls there? You said you have a vinyl collection. What are some of your top choices that you always like to spin?
I mean, really, I try to surprise myself. I just put a lot of new one every day, and whatever it is, that's what I put on. But again, a lot of my collection is Aphex Twin. I have a Anal Cunt Morbid Florist record I put on sometimes. I actually have a decent G.G. Allen vinyl collection too. Again, I got LD50. I got Korn Self-Title. I got $3 Bill Y'all on vinyl, but nice. I rarely ever touch that because that's like super rare, and I don't want to like have anything bad happen to that thing.
Don't want to scratch that.
But yeah, I don't know. There's some more I have that I'm not listing off. I guess my memory's not the best, but yeah, Aphex Twin was like the artist that I was like, I want to own all that stuff on vinyl because he's like my hero pretty much. But yeah, I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you said you sat around listening to Meshuggah or something all day, I'd be concerned.
I mean, yeah, I fuck with Meshuggah, but no, I don't only listen to like one thing all the time. It starts to lose like its like texture when I feel like I listen to one genre all the time, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I never listen. Well, I wouldn't say never, but I don't listen to heavy shit. Other than everything I have to listen to.
A bunch of Fish records.
No, I'm not sitting around listening to Fish. Oh well, I like old Fish. I'll admit to that, but no. It's probably something to do with age, though.
Hey, we all have our jam bands, you know what I mean?
Well, some jam bands are worth it.
You should step into the light, Alex.
Horrible.
Nowadays, it's okay to like weird things, and you know.
What's a jam band?
Dave Matthews, man.
Like Fish and Dave Matthews, and like the Grateful Dead, and just stuff like that.
Dave Matthews is a jam band?
They're on the fringes.
Yeah.
I don't like Dave Matthews Band at all, but
I like Dave Matthews.
I fuck heavy with him.
So yeah, I don't want to insult them, but yeah, never a fan. But I did Fish back in the day, more from a musicianship standpoint. I never got into the whole, go follow them around and eat your pop brownies or whatever. I just liked the CDs. So I didn't give a shit about the live music.
Yeah, I definitely did that at a Dave Matthews show once or twice.
Yeah. Fuck it. Where were we? All right. So, I
would like to inquire about a year ago we had our first podcast and Fronz brought you up and then you guys kind of squashed the beef after that. I was wondering if you guys have had any kind of like conversation since then and what it's been like.
Oh, you didn't hear, man? The beef's back on.
Oh shit.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no. He's like the last person on my mind for sure. But I have no problem with the kid. Really, I'm down. Like when I heard what he was saying about me, I honestly felt bad. 'Cause it's like, damn, like I know for a long time I was at war with everybody. Like I had no peers. Like everyone to me was just a person in my way. I was playing a zero end game. I was like, either I'm quote unquote the focus or I'm not, everyone can fuck off. So anyone that I felt was getting in my space like that, I just completely push them away, like get the fuck away from me kind of thing. So he had every right to say what he said. But he also said that he was a fan, like a longtime fan, which I also know is true because I've been around the guy for so long. So I was like, you know what? Like, let me just go ahead and just let him know, like, what he thinks about me, as fair as it might be, that's not me in a nutshell. You know what I'm saying? So let me just smooth it over. Let him know, like, look, man, I have no problem with you. You know what I'm saying? I would love to tour with you again, but you know, I guess in like a shorthanded way, I was apologizing, being like, hey, man, look, I got no beef with you. Let's team up. You know, let's do more shit, because that's what's most important to me, is to be a part of cool shit. You know, right. And obviously they had such a amazing career for themselves. They became like fucking like a super band pretty much. So it'd be complete idiot to deny that. And again, I gotta beef with the guy. I think he's all right. I don't really know him in any other offhand way other than he sings for Attila. That's it. You know, I'm not like I really have come in close quarters with him. In any other capacity.
Because I watched some. I don't know what year it was, but I watched some video interview. I don't even know how I ended up there on YouTube, but it was you and Chris, and I don't know if there was somebody else there.
Alex from Chelsea Grin, ex-Chelsea Grin.
Okay, but there seemed to be, it was just really awkward, the vibe between you and Chris, and maybe I'm reading into something that wasn't there, after knowing there was some distaste for one another, at least for a period of time. But yeah, that was definitely odd. It seemed like, you guys toured together, but there was no kinship, shall we say.
No. And again, like I just said before, like there was a long
kinship, not kinship.
Yeah, there was a long period where like I didn't want to be anyone's friend, which is a terrible mindset to have in this industry. I just didn't care to know or be close with anybody. And that's my own hang up, for in my 20s or whatever. But yeah, that interview is really strange because we all for some reason agreed to be interviewed together, and I don't know. Again, I can't explain to you why I was the way I was, but that's who I decided to be in that moment, being like, I'm not into this. I almost wish I never agreed to this. And this woman was asking me questions, and I rather than having fun with it, I just was annoyed. Really, that's the vibe that's in the video, is me just being like, this is annoying. I don't care about this. That's fair. Yeah.
Now, would you, that same attitude that was the catalyst for any problems you had with Fronz or whatever, is that also partially responsible for the fractures that have occurred within Emmure itself, as far as the brother, the Leonetti brothers, I think that's their name, and then the lineup after that?
There's so many variables that come into play in a band when you're dealing with 5 different people, 5 agendas, 5 egos, 5 people who are so young and still developing as people in general, that you're gonna have friction. Does not matter. And the best way I can explain it is that familiarity breeds contempt. So you spend enough time with anybody, I don't care if it's your brother, could be your fucking wife. At some point, you're gonna be like, get the fuck away from me, And we, with being in a band, you're spend so much time together in these confined spaces under these extremely unique, intense conditions that, their beefs happen. And me and the Leonetti brothers, that's a whole different thing than when everyone else quit in 2015. And I could go on and on about, this person was this way and I was this way, yada yada. Well, at the end of it, it's just at the end of it, simply put it, professionally and personally, we had reached our end. There was no fixing that bridge.
So it wasn't all just you being a dick or whatever.
I mean, if you ask them, yeah, I was being a dick, but that's one side of a story you're going to get, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to sit here and start painting who they are, what they've done or said. It doesn't matter. Point is, again, professionally and personally, it expired,
Yeah, no, I get that. One thing I was curious about, because you co-founded the band with the brothers.
Yeah.
So how did that? How did you come to possess Emmure as opposed to those two, or did they not even attempt to keep it?
No, they bowed out on their own accord. They did not seek out any kind of I don't know what you call it, I don't know, ownership. I can't think of the word right now. They weren't trying to get a handle on it. They just all right, we're out. And pretty much the reason that it went like that was because we got into a huge fight And it became a thing. I'm like, either I'm going tonight or he's going tonight. And everyone else is like, well, Frank's not going anywhere, so see ya, pretty much. And yeah, I mean, they never, came after me or whatever, like trying to say like, they own the band or something like that. Again, they bowed out a long time ago,
Sure. Well, I guess they've got I get, press releases for Lakeshore here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's working out for them, but whatever.
So, Frankie, you were also one of the kind of first bands in these kind of subgenres, the heavy subgenres, that was offering kind of like a paywall system to where like you could become an Emmure member and this, that, or the other. The fan club thing. Well, my it's been interesting.
Why you gotta bring that up?
Oh no, it's been interesting though how it's gone on since then, because now it seems, especially in this current situation with the pandemic and all that other good stuff, but even beforehand, like systems like Patreon have become a thing to where like you can offer some kind of extra content / live shows / Q&A stuff like you kind of were suggesting in your fan club, but it seems to have become like the norm now. I just wanted to know like how you felt about how that's progressed and how that's changed over time. Would you try it again?
It seems like the natural thing that would happen because there's no real money in the record sales. You can only tour so much, so you only have so much income going between you and the people that are in your crew, in your band, your manager, all that shit. So it's like the pieces of the cheese that this industry has, this shit gets chopped away real quick. So you've got to think of other ways to have some kind of like money coming in from your art. You know what I'm saying? If that's what you want to do. I've predicted the whole like subscription thing a long time ago with what I did with like emailing or contacting people on DMs and stuff like that. I can see why that was not transparent. I can see why people are like, what the fuck is this anyway? But I was just kind of really attempting just a fucking like a Hail Mary being like, look, I'm going to do this thing myself rather than go through any third party and see what comes of it. That was just my mindset. I really didn't expect it to be like this whole thing about how I'm scamming people and this and that, which I never did. Anyone that signed up, I gave them their money back. Like, look, I don't know why this is going so south, but here, like, I'm not trying, in good faith, I'm not trying to fuck anybody over. But yeah, it's funny now to see that everyone and their mother is doing that same kind of model, but just again via third party. It's not, they weren't doing it the way I did it. Which, looking back, obviously, I regret the decision only because I know I could have done it a little smarter, a little more transparent.
I mean, my takeaway is, and I honestly feel slightly guilty because I feel like, the post that I did about that sort of fucked it all up. And I mean, I never got the impression from anyone that you were, scamming people. This wasn't
right.
A Johnny Craig.
I was going to say, you're not selling laptops or nothing.
Right. And I think, while there were a few vocal people that were like, this isn't transparent enough. We don't, know what we're getting and blah, blah, blah. You had a great deal of support that were like, this monetary amount or whatever is completely fair. And Frankie and Emmure need to do this to survive, and I've got no problem with it. So I think from that standpoint, I felt a little guilty because there wasn't anything nefarious or malevolent going on. It was just, something you came up with to try and sustain the band as times get tougher. So from that standpoint, I think at this point, months or I don't even know how it was, a year ago or whatever, I don't think you came out of that with any dent whatsoever because you did, come out right away and express a little regret about the way you went about it and refunded everybody's money. So I'm kind of like, well, no harm, no foul at this point. And I think the takeaway is that you have a lot of support out there. And when you do, launch something, whether it's Patreon or, I don't know what other vehicles are out there at this point in time, I think you'll do pretty well with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't like consider that to be like a huge bump of the road or anything like that, but it definitely got people's attentions for a little bit, at least to be like, hey, what the fuck is that? And then again, I think it's funny that now it's become such a normalized thing, like again via third party, that it's funny how there was any backlash at all. But whatever, I don't think about it too much. It is what it is, and I wish I had just maybe just been a little bit more forthright with, I guess, being like, okay, look, you can sign up for this Patreon page or the fuck. I just thought that was kind of lame. I was like, why don't I just see if people want to sign up to this email subscription and then take it from there? But whatever.
Well, I guess from their standpoint, it's probably better they got refunded, because those lifetime passes to Emmure shows wouldn't have been doing a lot of good in 2020.
Yeah, buddy.
It's crazy though. It's like the age of the content creator for the most part, with those kind of third party, apps and whatever situations are available to everyone. The most curious for like all the rockers that have OnlyFans, I'm very curious as to the content that some are putting on there. I know you have an OnlyFans. I know Chris
I don't have an OnlyFans.
Oh, I thought you had one. Sorry.
No, I made a joke. I was like, get the BTS on my uncircumcised mosh.
I got you.
OnlyFans.com/uncircumcised mosh.
I'll admit I clicked that link and I wasn't sure if that was just a bad link, like you screwed it up, or you were just. I figured you were punking everybody, but.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dave told me you had
some
one.
Artists have them, you know what I mean? So it's okay. I'm not bashing it in any which way. Get it how you live it or whatever they say. But it was interesting because I'm all for, like, I tell bands all the time they should do Patreon. Even before all this quarantine stuff popped off, I've told bands that's probably the wave of the future, just like releasing singles over the year and then maybe at the end of the year releasing a physical copy for those who enjoy physical media and stuff like that, which there are a few of those still out there.
Yeah, I mean, Emmure is cooking up something that we're going to launch very, very soon that hopefully people that fuck with us will be interested in, that will kind of start to, counteract what's going on with our touring career being so fucked up. But, yeah, I mean, I saw all this coming, not the coronavirus per se, but, like, the trend of being, like, a content creator or a band or anything and being like, look, you subscribe to us for X amount of dollars. This is what we provide for you. And there's perks and yada, yada. So I'm not surprised by it at all.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
I'm sure that'll work out for you.
Do you want?
I feel bad. I was gonna lament the current state of, the music industry. Every time I'm like one of those guys who reads a ton of music books. Just about bands, whether it's sort of quasi-trashy stuff like the Led Zeppelin Hammer of the Gods book or more, textbook type industry things. But it just sucks to be a musician in 2020 or 2010 or even 2003 when you look at the people from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Now, it was harder to get your band off the ground, at least to get a little visibility because we had no internet. But once you did get it off the ground, the road to actually having a sustainable income and career is just so much different. In other words, if Emmure was around in the 70s and had albums in the Billboard Top 100, the record... The revenue from record sales alone, assuming someone didn't get screwed by a shoddy record contract, which did happen, was enough to keep people's lives afloat for so long. And now it's like, it doesn't matter if you're 50 on the Billboard chart and touring constantly, you're still struggling when these kids, these 25-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 16-year-olds think like, oh, Frankie from Emmure, man, he's on getting easy street. When you're just struggling like, some of these bands that are just starting off, because it's that everybody's on this even playing field, it seems like, unless you're, a Day to Remember, or you're in that very top tier of bands. Beyond that, it's just a freaking struggle. And I'm so grateful that I'm not, part of that. Part of me would love to be, but it seems like such a slog, and particularly as you get older, it just must get exhausting fighting day after day as the music industry continues its decline. Not for the big companies, because of course Apple and Spotify, are killing it, but they're killing it on the backs of all these blue collar musicians such as yourself. And it's hard not just to look at all of that and be like, fuck, it sucks to be a musician right now. And that's not so much a question as just me just ranting out loud.
No, I think it's fair assessment. I mean, yeah, it definitely is a sad state of affairs for the B tier and C tier list of bands out there that I definitely consider Emmure to be a part of. I don't know. I don't get too mad at it. I have a friend who works for Spotify, and we were talking the other day about how like it's bullshit that Spotify is like about to be pretty much close to being $1 billion company, and they still give out next to fractions of a cent to the streams. But I mean, and right now it's like it doesn't take anything to put your music on the internet or be on Spotify. Anyone can fucking do it. So it's like, why should they pay out Joe Schmo for his million fucking streams when you have someone like Lady Gaga who's like literally one of the most mainstream artists of all time, killing and crushing in there, and she's not really seeing shit either. So it's just kind of like this weird supply and demand we've created with music where it's so fluid. And it's just like anyone can get a hold of it now that it's like it doesn't, music just isn't as special as it used to be, period. I think that I saw some article one time that was like, they asked like kids 14 to 16, if you had to pick one, if you had to pick Apple Music or Snapchat, across the board Snapchat. Yeah. They're like, fuck music. Who gives a shit about music? I fucking Snapchat. So that's just like kind of the world we're living in, man. It's become secondary, And when I was growing up, I'm sure I'm speaking to my peers here, music was the focus. That was the coolest fucking thing. Nothing was cooler than that. But now you're competing with just like social media and just like face filters and fucking, I don't even fucking know what's out there because I'm just detached. But it's not the end all be all anymore. And it's really fucked up that like you can't just be a great band. Like you have to be a great band that also has like this insane ability to market your music as more than more than music, as like this brand that people can wear and put online and like make a part of their profile. And I don't even fucking know. I really don't.
It's all about branding for the most part.
Yeah.
These days.
It's not the music, it's the whole package. And I mean, I can still remember, a long time ago when you had to buy a CD. Well, actually, I should say my first music I probably bought was on cassette or something. But once upon a time, you'd shell out the money for a CD, and that was a decent amount of money for a kid or a teenager. And the end result is you'd sit there and listen to that CD. You'd put the time into that CD and grow to appreciate the music. You weren't just going to put it on, listen to one song and just chuck it because you just paid $12 for it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, you go on YouTube, you can listen to 500 songs, 30 seconds of each, and just bail out when you don't like it and move on to the next. There's no forced investment. And that sucks.
You lose the experience of getting that new music. It's like, I remember when we were when downloading music first started happening, there wasn't much of an experience other than like, oh, cool, I can download this song off Napster or something like that, or whatever the subsidiary program was. But there was nothing like, like you said, getting a physical album and just opening it up and then maybe reading along with the songs and learning those songs. It was like an experience, kind of like, I guess people in the 60s would sit with record players and headphones and just like space out to Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and stuff,
Yeah, it's like you're focused on that album and that album only. And you were going to at least, maybe you weren't going to love it, but you were going to at least give it a shot all the way through. And yeah, that probably rarely happens nowadays. Hopefully there's some kid in his basement who does that shit for a full album, but more often than not, that's not happening. And now, Emmure, you guys have 7 albums, 8th on the way. Mm-hmm. I assume that your royalty checks aren't paying rent, even though you have this, decent sized back catalog.
Yeah. I'm still chasing that money for sure.
Yeah. And that's just, I don't know. something wrong about that, as I'm sure you agree to. But
well, you guys have always been
in
good
any
at
case,
branding, though, Frankie. You guys have branded very well. I think the E from the Emmure and the logo has always been very standoutish. It stands out amongst all the other things. Plus, you guys kind of adopted the streetwear merch vibe earlier on and stuff like that. You know, your branding is it seems like it's a focal point of Emmure.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has lots to do with the fact that I just don't like a lot of what I see from my peers in the genre. I think a lot of it is played out or just given like no thought. Like cool metal shirt, dude. I haven't seen that a million times. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I get tired of that shit. So I want to do shit that's different that I personally enjoy, and hope that the people that are gravitated to what we do are also able to like dive into it. But I mean, I still play the game, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when I go to Europe, like it's a totally different merch line than when I do the States. Like, cause all those motherfuckers, they want the metal shirt. They do not want the cool fucking like, oh, I never seen someone. They want the fucking, hey, does that have a fucking pentagram on it? All right, I'm buying that one. That's the one. It's like just, you have to like kind of feed into that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we've been lucky. I mean, particularly, I've been very lucky that I've been so stubborn and crazy to do this for so long, because I think a lot of bands are the reason they disappear is because they don't have that kind of, I guess, desire to bleed out of their eyes to see the vision become something. You know what I'm saying? And I was willing to like sleep outside and do weird shit to make sure that I continue to do this. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we're still here today. You know, that's why when we go places and we're that name on the flyers, because, you know, I've made a lot of crazy sacrifices in my life to do that. And not a lot of people or bands in general will ever be able to will be willing to do that, you know? So.
Well, you were way ahead of the curve on the Eternal Enemies mask or bandana. I'm not even sure what that is, but has super relevance right now, obviously.
Yeah. That album cover was just supposed to be a mood. You know, I wanted it to like represent like me at war with everyone, pretty much.
I think that sums you up pretty well. From the innocent bystander's perspective. You're mellowing out, you know, as you grow old. The new, kinder, gentler Frankie, which is cool.
See, I've always been benevolent, but it's taken a long time for me to have the patience I have now.
Benevolent tyrant.
You know, you could also kind of toss it up with, it might have been some of your branding, your personal own branding. You know what I mean? Like, necessarily, you might have been trying to act like a certain persona because that was what you may have thought a frontman should be in a deathcore type band. You know what I mean? It always fit the mold for me. I mean, just like, you know, you have people like Mean Pete. Yeah, his whole vibe was he's supposed to be a mean guy, and you know, you meet him, he's not.
I think the mean mysterious vibe definitely works better in this scene than the super friendly, outgoing,
right.
benevolent, as Frankie called himself, but the obviously conspicuously benevolent person. Because I mean, if you walk up to your average metalcore fan and say, name, you know, the 3 most well-known metalcore frontmen, you know, Frankie's probably going to be one of them. So you take a lot of heat, but it seems like you've done something right, because you're still here and people are still talking about you. Whatever you post gets a reaction. So hey. That's half the battle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting that I kind of grew up under like this like examined eye of the internet, you know, in my being that I started the band at 16, and immediately by the age of 18, people were like, you know, Emmure's the band, blah, blah, blah. Like we kind of became like one of those like bands people are talking about so young. And I think a combination of the attention and the overexposure, like having all of my like premature thoughts being like broadcasted all the time and stuff like that, it kind of gave people a lot of chance to see low hanging fruit and be like, oh, this kid is that, he's a fuck up, he's a fucking asshole, yada yada. But you know, it's really I was just like anyone else, I just had a bigger platform, you know.
Right. Yeah, I think you were under the microscope a little bit more so than maybe your other peers that aren't even in, you know, the limelight or, you know, the public eye.
I mean, I don't know anyone out there who wouldn't like to redo portions of their adolescence, and having to do that with the watchful eye of at least, you know, our corner of the media is those are treacherous waters. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody could look at you or anybody else and look at missteps or drama and be like, what an idiot. They couldn't do that in good conscience, because we're all idiots as teenagers, I think, for the most part.
Alex,
and adults.
Do you have? Yeah, for sure. Do you have any other kind of things that you wanted to go over? Because I was going to go ahead and hit these Instagram questions up a little bit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Go ahead.
I'm not big on plugs. I think anyone that's listening to this or watching whatever knows what the fuck's going on. So no, we're good. We can do whatever we want to
do. Okay, the first one is from, I don't even want to say, I'm not gonna say anything just because who knows. they'll know what the question is. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna skip any of the troll kind of ones, but I won't be able to filter all of them, I should say. Okay. Probably not. This one is referring to your Warped Tour days. This person would like to know, why did you wear the tracksuit all summer long? I know you must have been burning up.
It was hot, but I was so dedicated to my aesthetic that I didn't care that I was like sweaty and gross like that.
And we've already spoke a little bit about this, but someone asked, they just asked, have you been working on your mental health recently? ? It's been very refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I know I said it earlier, but everyone's like evolving and growing and fixing things about themselves at their own pace, and I'm definitely still doing that now. It took me only very recently have I been like making these discoveries about myself, about patterns, things I do, or just self-destructive things I've done to myself in the past, and I try to just like correct my way of thinking, for myself, really, not for anyone else,
True, yeah. Well, you got to start putting more stuff on the vision board and all that other kind of thing, and just stay more positive,
Yeah, for sure.
This one, does Josh get paid more money in Emmure than he was in Danza and the Glass Cloud?
I can't speak on that. Possibly. I don't know. I never asked him. So you have to talk to Josh about that.
Those metalcore salaries.
Yeah, I figured so. Opinion on Robert Pasbani?
Pasbani from Metal Injection.
Okay, yeah.
That's my business comrade. Yeah, everybody. The awkward video interview, I guess.
I don't know. I guess there's no bad blood there. True story. The first time I was ever near him, and I don't think Rob remembers this at all, was at a Glass Casket show at CBGB's downstairs lounge. He came up to me and asked me if I was in Glass Casket, and I was like, I looked at him like all sideways. I'm like 17 or 18 at the time. I'm like, no, like what the fuck are you talking about? And then that was like my first interaction with him in passing, and then obviously they've written about me a million times, and I did the interview with him and stuff like that. But I mean, he's just a journal guy. I don't know nothing bad to say about him really.
Mean Pete of Ether Coven and
yeah.
Remember Never wants me to tell you kissy face emoji.
Oh, dude, I love that guy. I hope he's feeling better, man.
Oh, I know he did some chemo today. Actually, yeah. I think he was showing on his Instagram. But it's pretty cool that the whole scene is kind of, or like the people around him have kind of come around and supported him in the way they have.
Chemo.
Yeah. I mean, I love
coronavirus. That's rough.
Yeah, some chemo and corona. Your favorite Madball record? ?
I'm not a big enough fan to name an album, unfortunately, but I fuck with them though. They're a great band.
Frankie's favorite Madball album is Set It Off.
Probably.
Yeah, this other one here is as a nu metal fan, in your opinion, nu metal will back? Okay, I'm assuming he says, is nu metal back?
Is it back? I don't know. I mean, I think that there's just a new generation of kids who are not ashamed of being into like shit like El Nino or Korn or whatever, that are now making their own bands. So I wouldn't say it's essentially back or anything like that. I just think that now the whole like gatekeeping of like, oh, nu metal isn't cool, those kids have died. Those kids don't exist anymore. So now we're seeing this new wave of people who are just kind of, I guess, more, I don't want to say open-minded, but I guess maybe it's just more open with their interests. And so now that's kind of shining through in the music,
Yeah, it's definitely was. I definitely was a victim of the gatekeeping for sure, because I've always loved new metal, new metal from that certain time period, late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I didn't really keep up with it, but once I got into like hardcore and metal, yeah, it wasn't really cool to speak about that at the shows in the mosh pit, you know.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And this last one's just a joke, I guess. What shocks you?
That took me a second to get that.
Oh man, what shocks me? Honestly, dude, people, straight up. I'm always fucking amazed and fascinated by the insanity that people display, pretty much ad nauseum, constantly on the internet, just and in life in general. So yeah, people shock me all the time.
I gotta ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
Whose fault was that electrocution thing?
So
did anybody get sued over that?
No, here we go. So the story goes in terms of how or why we were with Chelsea Grin in Russia, obviously in Moscow, and we were playing this venue that we had played before, but for some reason on this particular night, I guess at some point in time, they had moved the stage around, and when they did that, the grounding wasn't very good for any of the electronics, being the microphone, all that stuff. So you take that combination with the fact that there's like almost 1,000 people in there, no windows, the entire place is sweating. I mean, like sweat dripping from the ceiling, sweat on the gear, just everything is wet, right? Condensation out the ass. And before I even got on stage, Gino, who was our monitor guy or Chelsea Grin's monitor guy or whatever, he got shocked first and was like, yo, Frank, like, I just want to warn you, like, I just got zapped really bad by the mic, and there's a big chance you're going to get zapped too. So just like, I don't know what to tell you. He was like, be careful. And if I just was like, all right, like, let's see what happens. And then obviously the video's out there and you can clearly see what happens.
Yeah, it was rough.
And that's it. So no one got sued. And the reason no one ever is going to get sued is I'm pretty sure the Russian mob like runs the nightclubs there. So
yeah, you sue somebody, then you die, I guess. But but you had no residual effects from that. That was just
I don't think so.
Well, yeah, maybe some people say your lyrics are all a result of that, but you weren't fucked up. I mean, because I remember watching that video and I was just like, damn.
It's kind of gruesome, yeah. You know, I watched it today again.
Could have crushed your head on the corner of an amp, or who knows?
Actually,
you hit something right with your back.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the shock was uncomfortable and like a very crazy sensation, but you see I fall on the drum riser and my back smashing the drum riser was actually the part that I felt past that time. I was like, oh god, that fucking sucked. Like I felt that for a couple days at least.
I mean, what did it feel like to get shocked like that? Was it like I don't know if you've ever been tased by like just a recreational taser or like
No, it's nothing like a taser. It was like it felt like a bus hit me, but also someone pulled the rug underneath me. Just like it just takes you out off your feet immediately. It does not feel like one of those like get away from me tasers or whatever.
Yikes! Yeah, no, it definitely looked rough.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry to laugh, but I mean it is. It's humorous to see, but then when you watch it,
there's definitely it's okay. I mean, there's definitely like an air of Schadenfreude where like you see it and you're like, holy shit, I'm glad that's not me.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But then once it sinks in, you're like, oh my god, that's actually like fucking scary.
Yeah, for sure. But if nothing else, we got 10 years of Frankie is shocked Lambgoat comments.
Yeah.
That one never died.
Yeah.
For sure.
It did recently, I guess, kind of, but
it
did make the run. Well,
sorry everybody.
Do you have anything else to go on, Alex, or anything you want to address with Frankie? Because we're going on like an hour and a half here.
Yeah, I think we've covered a shitload.
All right. Well, Frankie, thank you for joining us. Yeah, we are pleased and grateful that you have joined us, and I know everything in your busy schedule this month has been insane, so thanks for fitting us in.
Yeah, man, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.